All right. Well, hello everyone. Welcome. My name is Bree Kimberly. I am a nurse at NKC Health in the Community Health and Wellness Department. We are excited to have you guys here today. We are going to be exploring protein as we age. So maintaining strength, mobility, and overall wellness becomes increasingly vital over time and as we get older. So especially protein, hot topic, as Sydney has said already a couple of times. Um, and it can make a real difference in your daily life, in your muscle growth, and your overall health. So today's speaker is Miss Sidney Patrick. She's a field specialist in nutrition and health education with the University of Missouri Extension. She brings her expertise in active aging, healthy eating, physical activity to all the communities all over Missouri. So thank you for being here, Sydney. Guys, again, the Q&A is open, the chat is open, so please, we love an interactive group, so please throw any comments, questions in that, and I'll keep an eye on that while Sydney does her thing.
Perfect. Thank you, Bree.
All right.
Wonderful introduction. Yes, like she said, I'm a nutrition and health specialist with MU Extension. I work in the urban West region, so Jackson, Clay, and Platte counties, but we kind of cover all Missouri, especially for events like this that can be done around the state through virtual experiences or even through different states. So thank you guys for being here with me. Just a little bit about what extension is, if you haven't heard of it. Oftentimes, it's considered or known for 4-H. So it's really what you think of as on campus, getting research information in different areas, but we are trying to bring campus to you. So instead of having to come all the way to Columbia for information about health and nutrition, you have someone in your county in Missouri giving out this information. So really delivering Mizzou while still serving Missouri. The reason I like to mention all this is because we want research information given out to the public. And this topic today, protein as we age, it's a huge topic in the world today. And so, given that, there can be a lot of misinformation or just so much noise that you're like, what do I take and what do I use for myself? So, my goal of this presentation is to help you make an informed decision for yourself when considering your protein needs, your goals, and everything else that helps you get to where you need to be with your health. There's different marketing practices that can help control that. And I want you to be informed by yourself to make those decisions. Because, like I said, it's such a hot topic that you're getting a lot in the public eye of how much you need, or this is high protein, eat it. And we're going to sit down today and really discuss what that means and how that impacts us as we age. So, to get started, we're going to go over the role of protein. It is a macronutrient. So, you have protein, you have fats, and you have carbs, all essential to your daily health. Protein's role specifically, one of them is to preserve your muscle mass. So, sarcopenia is a term that means you're losing muscle mass with age. This is a natural occurrence, but it's something that can be slowed or limited based on different things like getting enough protein, getting enough exercise through lifting, etc. So, protein helps that. It also helps maintain your bone mass. So, another word that is scary, like sarcopenia, is osteoporosis or the potential of fractures. So, we want to maintain our bone density as we age, and protein helps with that. It can also aid in your weight management. And I don't mean by eating protein, you're going to lose weight. It's just one of those things that protein or items with higher amounts of it can make you feel fuller for longer. Thus, you have less food noise in your head and you save a little bit on not buying as much. And then also supporting your recovery. So, in terms of injury rehabbing and extending your independence, protein is very helpful for that as it aids our muscles and bones in recovery. One other thing I like to mention is it's a very hot topic right now is food as medicine. So I like to introduce this as one other thing that is very difficult as we think about as we age is the scare of chronic disease. So chronic disease in a vulnerable population like aging adults accounts for about 71% of why people are dying. So It's a very important thing of how do I prevent myself or how do I control chronic disease. Chronic disease can be an array of things such as heart disease, diabetes, obesities, different cancers, etc. And there's several approaches to addressing concerns like this. One of them being medications. Oftentimes they can be expensive. They might contain a synthetic chemical or they have an adverse effect. So instead of just doing what you want it to do, it might also make your stomach hurt, etc. So we want to try alternative concerns that are more holistic sometimes, such as food as medicine. And I'll give an example of protein having the potential of being a medical source. Specific proteins that have been derived from dairy products have been shown and associated with regulating blood pressure and may contribute to controlling hypertension or high blood pressure, which are major risk factors for cardiovascular disease. So that's one example. And then another one could be that plant-based proteins, such as legumes and soybeans, have shown promise in enhancing your glycemic control, which helps offer support in managing diabetes and the health complications that come with that. So this gets really deep into your personal health. So for this, I recommend going to your doctor, your healthcare provider, and saying, hey, I want to, if that's something you're interested in, I want less of a medication route or both, and see what happens, what your doctor prescribes you in terms of what can I eat to help prevent X, Y, or Z. So I do like to mention a couple of causes and effects potential with aging and just how we eat in general. So as we age, whether it's because of aging itself or the medications we're on, oftentimes our taste buds change or we lose them. This can cause us to only eat foods that have a lot of taste. So oftentimes as you age, you're reaching for things that are more salty, more sugary, desserts, breads, things like that, because it helps you taste them more. You want to enjoy the meal, you want to taste it. And so because of that, sometimes protein gets left out as an option because it doesn't have that initial sugary taste, but it can. You also, as you age, have a reduced appetite, so you may be eating less. It's not everyone, but some people as they age reduce their appetite. And this can have an array of effects. So one of those things we mentioned, we want to keep our bone density high, we want strong bones. If we're not fueling ourselves properly, we could have a lower bone density, and that makes us more susceptible to injury. So we want to prevent injuries, we want to prevent fractures, because each year millions of older adults fall. And a fall is a very scary thing because about 1 in 10 falls for older adults results in injuries. And there's so many different statistics that are very scary of if you have this fall, you are blank amount more likely to have a death the next year or something like that. Not meaning to scare anyone, but just really harping on the importance of fueling your body properly to have things like high bone density, etc. With continuing on down that list of our effects, if we have a fall or something like that, our self-efficacy might be lowered. Self-efficacy means your overall thoughts about yourself and your ability to do something. So how likely are you going to be confident that you can get in and out of the shower if the shower has a higher thing to put your leg over? In and out of the car, different activities. If your self-efficacy is high, you're more likely to do those things versus if it's low, you're not. And something like a fall could lower that self-efficacy. And then as we go down the line, our daily activities could be interrupted. So especially as we age, we do not want our daily activities to change if we can prevent it at all. So I'm going to keep going with the example. You have one fall, your self-efficacy is a little bit lower, and then you stop doing your normal things. So say you go to exercise class twice a week, and now you don't feel confident going anywhere without railing to hold on to. So you stop going to exercise class, so you're not getting the benefits of the class itself, but also the socialization and different mindfulness benefits that you get from it. And that really just has a slippery slope of changing so many things about our health very quickly and can even end up into less independent living. So really my goal with all my classes is to extend people's ability to live independently for as long as possible. And then our last side of effect that's kind of on a different realm is just inflation. So as we age, oftentimes we have a set amount of money we have to work with each month. If you're retired, etc., everyone's different. But inflation causes things to always be going up. And so then it's harder to find affordable, healthy options that work for you. Okay, so this question's already came up as I predicted, moving back into protein. And now we know like causes and effects, things, and why we need to protect ourselves. Big question. How much do I need? For an exact amount, I would recommend you ask your healthcare provider, ask your dietitian, because it can change based on medical conditions or chronic conditions. But for the average older adult, this is just a general statement, you need about 1 to 2 grams per kilogram a day for healthy and aging populations, and maybe even more if you have a chronic or acute conditions. So this is one of the biggest misconceptions I see all the time is that we as Americans convert this number instead of from kilograms, we convert them from pounds. So for the average person, I'm just going to go easy with the number 1 gram of protein a day per kilogram of body weight. So how do I find my kilograms of body weight? Whatever your weight is in pounds, I use the example of 125 pounds, you divide that by 2.2 and it gives you your body weight in kilograms. So if you were recommended 1 gram of protein a day per kilogram and you weighed 125 pounds, that'd be 57 grams of protein per day. Okay, so a lot of math there. Let me know if you have any questions. But like I said, consult your doctor because this is a range. So a lot of people are different in this, but something, especially for older adults who want to aim to be a little bit higher, like I said, because our body's going through so many different things and trying to prevent a lot as it goes. Okay, so now we know a little bit about how much we need. How do we get this? Several options. A couple listed here that are animal-based and plant-based, because a huge misconception is that if I want to get my protein goal, I have to eat a lot of meat. And what if I don't like it, or what if I can't eat it? So this is not all the options in the world, but this is a lot of different options that you can see. And it tells you how much protein is available in each item based on 100 grams. So 100 grams of beef equals 31 grams of protein. 100 grams of venison equals 27 grams of protein. Some of these are a guesstimate depending on which type of cut of meat you get, but general idea with this, so if you want to take a look at that. And I already saw there's a question, will there be a hard copy of the presentation? Yes, there is. And this is also being recorded to be able to watch anytime if you need to go back to this. But just a little bit of a clue in there. Okay, so you see now options of food and how much protein is available per 100 grams. That seems very simple though. And in the store, I know it gets a little bit more intense because you're like, I'm looking at what I need this week, also what you like. That's one of the biggest drivers that I want you to stay with, because in order to create behavior change, so if you're wanting to get more protein in, you need to like it at least a little bit, because if you're not enjoying it, you're less likely to eat it. So find something that hits your goals, you enjoy, and you can afford. So as we go to our next slide, we're going to think of more of a situation. If we're in a store, there's a ton of different options. There's people everywhere. We're overwhelmed. What are we looking at? And there's no right or wrong answer, because for one person, you might be looking at a low sodium diet, like something your doctor says you need to be on a lower sodium diet. So you're really focusing on sodium. And then another person might be a runner. They're sweating a lot. They're losing a lot of electrolytes and they don't want to buy electrolyte packets. So they're trying to get higher sodium. So things that can be considered bad could be good for a different person. So I want you to take that into consideration with this next slide. All right, take your time looking at bars 1 through 4. These aren't even necessarily protein bars, but they might be labeled as high protein. But they're common bars in a store. None of the numbers, colors matters. It kind of just highlights high and low options. But like I mentioned, something that might be bad for you might be good for another person's diet. Everyone's so different in these. So, one thing I want you to look at, not only the normal health, nutrition fact stuff, the price. Really, you want to get the bang for your buck in terms of, can I afford this long term? Is this worth it to me? And the ingredients. So some of you may not be as specific on the ingredients you want. I'm pretty specific. That's one of the things I do look at. I want to know what's in it and I want to recognize the words. I don't want any of the words to be foreign to me or something that if I looked up and researched, it wouldn't make much sense. So that's just me. So if you like, take a look at these 4 bars and maybe just type in the chat what is important to you. And there's no right or wrong answer, but you might say, I love bars number 1 and 4 because they have the most amount of protein. I love bar 2 because it's only $1.05. So really just type in the chat what stands out to you when you're in the store looking at 4 options like this. Because in the store there might be 30 of these options. So we're narrowing it down right now to 4. Take some time, no rush.
Sydney, we did have a question about what is the average size of meat per the display you showed in the last slide?
Okay. The average size, so those were 100 based on 100 grams. So I can't tell you exactly what 100 grams look like. And that's one thing that oftentimes people have scales. I don't own a scale because meat is often not measured like other items are, like a fourth of a cup of meat. It's more often measured in grams, but you can convert, if you don't have a scale, grams to what does that look like in cups. So I can't tell you a visual of that's this the size of a quarter or the size of a golf ball, but I can't tell you it's 100 grams.
And 100 grams is about 3.5 ounces. If it's easier for you to visualize maybe what 3.5 ounces, well, it's going to vary again how dense it is, but sometimes that's a little bit easier.
Hey, get his stuff in the comments. Thank you guys. So one person is looking at something that's lower on the carbs, so they would love option like 1 or 2 or 3, 1 or 3. I like bars with higher protein, but what about added sugar? I love this comment. We are going to get into the added sugar thing. That's one of the columns that is not here, but it's something I personally look at a lot. I see that there might be sugar in something, for example, an apple. An apple has sugars in it, but it doesn't have added sugars. So that's something on top of what's already naturally in it, added into a lot of bars that you see on the shelves. So I always look at the back of nutrition facts and I compare the added sugars. I look at both protein and carbs. I usually look at higher protein, lower fat, and lower sodium. That's a very common one. Bar 1, low calories, more protein, lower sodium. Can't read the brand though. Yeah, so this is just an option of what are we looking at and what can you find in your stores too, or not your stores, but even online. I always give the advice of try something out, and if you love it, potentially buy it in bulk or at a different discounted rate. I go to GNC and oftentimes they'll have a buy one, get one 50% off because a lot of these bars are quite pricey. And so that helps out a little bit. So, yeah, this is really just looking at this with these bars. I also like to give a little tell of looking at it with more of our beef options, with also the Beyond Burger, the one at the far right. That is a plant-based burger, but really just comparing options in the store in terms of beef. Oftentimes, you don't have bison, but some do, and then how much the price is. So some of these prices vary quite a bit, depends on the cut and quality you're getting. But this, once again, is based on per 100 grams of lean cooked meat, the calories, carbs, fat, cholesterol, protein, sodium, and iron. Okay. So as we look at this, do any of your opinions change? One of the things I'll mention, I love this because I know there's not added sugars, and it's the ingredients should be just chicken, should be just beef. Take a look at this and just consider as you're in the store, all of these things matter, but including the price. Because, like I said, you want something that you can really adopt, create real behavior change, and continue to do for yourself. All right, as we move on, this is going to be a hot topic here. Supplements. Supplements, like we mentioned with the bars, there's a lot of protein supplements in stores, anywhere that you see like a smoothie place of, do you want to add protein to your smoothie? And there's a lot of pros and cons. Some of these could be longer lists for you because everyone has their own individual opinions with it and what needs you have. But just common ones, I love that the pros are they have flavor options. So if you're the person that you're like, I don't like beef, I don't like the taste of meat, or I don't want to eat meat, protein supplements have a lots and lots of different flavors. Also, this could be very quick. So it's not something you have to think of. If I'm going somewhere today, do I want to have an ice cooler in my car, keeping whatever I need, like if I had beef, keeping it cold, and then do I have a microwave somewhere to warm it up? If you're in a hurry, it's a great option. Cons. So they can be higher on cost, but as I mentioned earlier, you can buy in bulk and get that down a little bit. A big con really for me is a lack of regulation. So protein powder is a dietary supplement, and for those things, the FDA leaves it up to the manufacturers to evaluate the safety and labeling of products. So there's no really way to know if a protein powder contains what the manufacturers claim. Some powders go out of their way to go to a third party to get their stuff tested and regulated. So there are some like that, but that's just one of my cons is the lack of regulation. And then potential adverse effects. So you don't know how it affects you sometimes, especially if you have dietary allergies or trouble digesting lactose. It can cause digestive distress. And then we already mentioned added sugars. So when I'm choosing my protein supplement, I look at the back and I really look at added sugars because I'm doing it because I like the flavor, but also I really am doing it for health benefits. So I don't want a ton of added sugars in mine, but that is my opinion on mine. And just knowing really what's in it. So looking at the nutrition facts and protecting yourself as you're going into this supplement. Yeah, lack of regulation. But like I said, some protein companies go outside and they get a third party company to test and do all these things for them to prove like, hey, this is what's in it, etc. That's just supplements in general and regulation. One thing I like to point out is there's other ways that you can go and check them out. So one that I'll highlight is called the Clean Label Project. You can research this project. It's all about trying to keep honesty, and there's 3 different goals. One of them is product certification. So they compare products that are very popular in different realms. For example, one of them is protein powders, and they compare it to the standards derived from like the California's Proposition 56 or 65, European Union regulations, and then US state and federal regulations. This testing is done by an independent third party, and it does things for different products, and they test it randomly. So they go get something from a market that you and I may go to, and then they test it to see different things. For example, like levels of contaminants. So the Clean Label Project really isn't telling you, hey, this is healthy in terms of like macronutrients and added sugars, etc. It's more on the terms of what contaminants are in something. So like levels of arsenic, cadmium, lead, and mercury. And they also advocate, so they try to advocate at the state and federal levels to advance policies and regulations in products. And then their last thing that they really harp on is product category evaluations and benchmarking. So, for example, with the protein category, They try to take, I believe it's like the top 75 top selling like protein powders, and they test them. They test them for all the things I mentioned above, like the arsenic, the cadmium, the lead, and mercury. And they do a list called the Clean 16. So the cleanest of those brands, they label the 16 for that. So I like checking that to say what's in those products that aren't being federally regulated. So that's just one way. And they do it on other things such as bars, coffees, etc. So really what I'm trying to give you out of this is to say do research for yourself to figure out what is in your products depending on what you care about. So not only the nutrition facts label, but things behind it. And also, one thing as you protect yourself, especially with research, it's difficult as you're going through it to read it, not only digest it, but to know who is funding it. So, if a paper is written all about the research on protein and everything sounds great, and then you look at the bottom and the funders was a protein company, it may be a little bit different in your head how you see it versus if it's something like anti-protein and it doesn't have any other gain from it. You basically what I'm saying is you want someone that's not opinionated as you make your own opinions, like strictly research based. Okay, so a little bit that's enough about protein for now. We're going to go on to just talking about your plate in general. So protein is super important, but so are other nutrients. So this is a My Plate representation. This is from the USDA, and it tells you on average, this is what your plate should look like. Give or take different things for you, depending on what is important to you and your health. This is an average person. Okay, mine might look a little bit different. I'm probably a little bit less dairy than this. And this does not mean every single meal you eat, this amount of your plate should be fruits, this amount should be veggies. I see it more as throughout a week's time, if you combined all your meals, it should look similar to this if this is your goal. So I like just a visual option of that and just remembering, hey, protein's very important, but so are other aspects of our plate. And I want us to practice. So I mentioned the expense of protein oftentimes, or just not knowing how to put it in your own meals. So I know we all, maybe not all of us, a lot of us, we have so much in our fridge, in our cabinets, and we're still going to the store. So I really want to challenge you to see what you have already and see what you can make out of it. And we're going to practice it today. So foods I need to use. We don't have to use all of them, but that just means they're in my fridge. They have a limited time. I've got to get them out within the week. And then food I have on hand. So a little bit more shelf stable, but not good for forever. Go ahead and look at these. Type in the chat, and you don't have to use all of them. Just use a couple of them. And tell me a meal that's a little bit relevant in terms of our My plate or a high protein diet. What could you make with these items? I'll give you a second to check it out. And maybe even what could you make that you would eat so you would like it? Tuna salad, that's a good one. So then we could use really a lot of this. Your eggs, tomatoes, spinach, bread, tuna. You could even switch it to chicken salad. Even some of the mayo would be used. What else? What are some ideas you guys have? And it doesn't even have to be a meal. It could just be a mixture of all of them. Egg, tomato, spinach wrap. Love that. Spinach omelet. Tortillas, beans, rice, all in on the list. Yeah, it's okay not to be on the list. It's good to think of what you have right now and then go to the store. So then you can be like, what do I need to create a meal? Chicken noodle soup, omelet with tomato, eggs, spinach with beans and tortillas. Yeah, so we get really original. I feel like oftentimes I feel little bit bored with my meals because I'm always using the same thing. And if I really sat down before I went to the grocery store and said, what do I have? Let's try to be original and make something new out of it. That'd keep me more on my toes without making too much more. Homemade hummus with garbanzo. Okay. Good ideas, guys. Perfect. Okay, so that's just a little bit of a practice that I want you to try as you go into your homes of what do I already have? What can I make out of this? Save some money and then also follow those templates of my plate and then trying to get that high protein diet. Okay, so another way to do this is preparing in advance. I think one of the deterrents of high protein in terms of meat is preparing it and how much time it might take. But I love preparing it and then using it in multiple different things. So not only does that cut down on time, it also makes me get less bored with my meals. So I can just eat straight ground beef with like a sweet potato on the side and some broccoli, but I don't want to eat that 4 meals in a row. So I might want to switch that from ground beef one night to a taco the next night, right? And then I have tortillas, but I often have canned tuna and I can make a tuna wrap the next day and then switch back to the ground beef in whichever way I want. So really just finding ways to repurpose what you have. So you're still hitting that protein goal, but you're not getting bored with it. Like I said, our goal is behavior change. And to do that to successfully, it's a lot easier when you enjoy what you're eating and it's not as monotonous. So that's just one way of preparing in advance. Further tips of purchasing, big one for me, eat before you shop. So we sat down, we looked at what we have in our fridge, we looked at what we have in our freezer and our cabinets. We know what we need to make a meal. I recommend eating before you shop because if not, that list that you created is out the window. We're making decisions with our heart instead of our mind. Sticking to your list with that and then comparing unit pricing. Like we did earlier, we were comparing bar to bar. You can see if you're buying rice, that example we just used. Do I want to buy a 2-pound bag of rice or a 5-pound bag of rice? They'll see in the unit pricing, it'll be like the top left corner of the price, how much the price is per ounce. Typically, it'll be cheaper per ounce for that 5-pound bag than the 2-pound bag, but you have to really think, do I have room for this in my cabinet? Do I have space for it? And will my family or myself actually use it? And if so, you might want to go for the 5-pound bag. Yeah, so buying in bulk. And then coupons or loyalty cards is a good way to go. Like I said, I love a buy one, get one 50% off, any type of deal that's going on of things I know I will continue to eat. And then thinking outside of the store. So what you can make it grow in your garden, going to fresh vegetable stands, different things like that. So another tip in terms of keeping yourself on your toes and interested in what you're eating for your high protein diet is using different tools to cook it. I love grilling, but occasionally I'm tired. I don't want to go outside. It's cold and I'm just tired of that taste. So I like to switch it up. Sometimes I'll use my crock pot. Sometimes I use my pressure cooker. I'm big on the air fryer. So I feel like one of my biggest tips for getting your vegetable consumption, especially during the winter months, I like to buy them frozen because they're a lot cheaper. One, and two, those were typically preserved during peak time for that specific veggie. And I just dump out that bag into my air fryer and it is so crisp and fresh. That is my personal preference. You can also use a toaster, oven, or a blender. So just switching things up, especially if you have leftovers, how you can warm them up or make them taste different or elevate that meal. All right, so I'm going to have you guys share. We've learned a couple of things about what protein is, how it impacts us, and then how to put it into meals. So how do you guys put protein in your meals? Like what's your go-to? And if you don't have one, this is how we learn from each other. I'll go ahead and share mine as we go or as you guys type. I love always centering it around protein. Like I said, I'll make a huge pot of like beef at the beginning of the week. And my first meal will probably just be the straight beef with sides. And then the next meal, I will shift it using the same protein source, but shifting it into something instead of just beef into like spaghetti. So keeping myself on my toes in terms of interest in the meal, but still getting those health marks that I'm looking for. So what are your tips? You probably see a lot right now about meal prepping. That's an option. Prepping before, having it ready for the week, just making sure you eat it. Tina posted homemade red lentil soup, one for the freezer, one for eating in the refrigerator. I love that idea. So I think it's great that you're going to spend all this time prepping. You might as well prep two, freeze one. Just making sure if that's your first time doing that, freeze a small bit of it first and see if it's good post freezer. Sometimes the freezer has different um, changes it can make to your food. So making sure it's in a freezer safe bag, etc. Buying a rotisserie chicken, then use it throughout the week for different recipes. I love that idea. I've heard that a lot. I use a menu subscription that gives a nutrient for each meal. That is awesome. There's so many different resources like that. Cottage cheese to fall back on. Cottage cheese is on the up and up right now. I see almost every recipe of how do I change this to put cottage cheese in it, get some extra protein. Love it. Cook chicken in a crock pot and freeze half of it. Yep. Make power bowls with veggies and chicken. Love anything with a bowl. Often make the recipe so we can eat the leftover in a second meal. Yes, yes, yes. I think about people, especially big families, how much they have to cook each time or cooking each night. So it's just best if you can do a little bit more. And so then it's more than one meal. I like to make a big pot of soup, chili, stew, etc. to eat on all week or a casserole. I eat cottage cheese a lot and scrambled eggs with cheese, sometimes fresh spinach and tomatoes. That sounds like quite a good meal. Lots of hearty stuff in that. Make lots of homemade soup, pre parts of it. Okay, y'all are great with the tips. Thank you so much. I'll grill a whole chicken and the remaining parts can be made into a pot pie with lots of vegetables and make separate meals. Yes, I think chicken is one of the most versatile things for me, chicken and beef. So making it one meal and then change it into so many. Love the pot pie idea. Okay, so now that we've talked a lot on protein and hitting our goals, other ways that we can impact our health with protein to make it go even a mile longer is getting physical activity at the same time. So you want to hit your protein goals. That helps so much, but furthering that with physical activity can even further strengthen those bones, strengthen your muscles, and elongate your independence. So the recommended physical activity per week for adults 65 and older is 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity, which means like brisk walking, something like that, or 75 minutes a week of vigorous intensity aerobic activity, such as hiking, jogging, or running. You would like to get at least 2 days of strengthening muscle activities, such as lifting, and also activities such as improving your balance. Okay. Similar to the protein intake, let's look at where you're at right now. So, where are you at right now with physical activity? If you're at 0 minutes per week and the goal is the 150, my recommendation is taking it bit by bit. So, say I'm at 0. I would want my goal maybe for next week to be 10 minutes. I don't want to go jump from 0 minutes to 150 because I'm less likely to maintain that. When you take it bit by bit, it's easy to get small wins. You build up that confidence, you build up your self efficacy, and then you're more likely to maintain that behavior change. So that's really the goal. And this will look different for everyone. Same thing, too. I want you to enjoy it. Find an activity that you love the most, whether that be walking, swimming, etc. I think a great way to start, though, is finding group exercise. So lots of common benefits you can get from this. One of them just being a part of a group. So having a social group that is rooting for you all the time and that you look forward to seeing. Also accountability. If they don't see you, they're going to let you know. But just having that group around you supporting you. And at the same time, you don't have to think of the exercises on your own then. Somebody is leading you through what to do. It's kind of a mindless effort for you instead of having to think about it. Some people prefer being alone, though. That's okay too. You can do half and half, or you can just do completely alone or completely in a group. I think this is a great way to do it. But really trying to get in those aerobic activities, strength training, and balance to really get those muscles going, improve that bone density, and elongate that independence. One example I'll highlight to preserve your strength is through extension. So Stay Strong, Stay Healthy is one of our main programs, especially one that I teach throughout the year. I have one that is online. So you guys are great with the online structure. So I just want to point this out. This isn't only for older adults, but it's specifically geared towards older adults. There's 8 exercises that you do each time, and each one is meant to strengthen your muscles and make you feel more stable. We work on balance as we exercise, so getting a little bit of cardio, but a lot of that muscle work to build up that bone density and muscle. Two of the examples I'll give you, a wide leg squat and a seated row, that one on the right, are 2 of the exercises we do in the class. It looks different for everybody. We have options to modify, options to make harder too. But the one I'll talk about the most is the wide leg squat. So one of the, I'm not going to say benchmarks, but showing of health as we age is, can you sit and stand independently? If you have to hold on to something, that's okay, but something through this class you want to work on is being able to sit and stand without assistance or without rocking back and forth to really keep your independence, stay in your home independently as long as you can. So I just think that's a great option to know about that we have in Missouri. And if you're interested, 2 classes we have starting at the beginning of the year. The first one on your left, this is a QR code if you want to scan it. I can also send you links if you need. This class will be held online for 8 weeks, starting early January, Monday and Wednesday nights from 5 to 6. So it's 16 total session, twice a week for 8 weeks. Same one for the one on the right. This one's on Tuesdays and Thursdays, starting early January from 1 to 2 p.m. for 8 weeks. And I think this is a great way to still be in your home, especially during the winter when it ices, when it storms. You don't have to worry about getting out, but you have that group still with you. We're in group fitness. We're there working on the same things together. And this is for older adults. There's a lot of different modifications if you've never ever worked out before, or if you're just trying to keep what you got going. This is a great way to do it. So I'm going to close with a question. So what is one thing you learned or plan to start doing from today's program? Or if you have any questions for me, please let me know. The one thing I want you to take away is do your own research. You never know what gain people have from certain things, or just what works for one person, what might not work for you. So really consulting your doctor, trying different things. I'm going to put those 2 links in down below. Now I'll check the notes in 1 second.
I want to know how many of you guys were doing the squats while you were watching her speak, because I started doing them. Yes, so several questions about, can we get this information? This presentation is being recorded. If you've registered for this, which the people watching have, you're going to get the YouTube link that's going to show this video recording again. We can also send out Sydney's PowerPoint. Are you cool with that, Sydney?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we'll attach that. I'll also send out in that email, they'll have the YouTube link and we'll have Sydney's PowerPoint in there. And then you guys can revisit whenever you want. Good stuff, girl.
Thank you. Thank you. I just put those 2 links in the chat. Those are the long version of the chat. My bad. One of them's not posting, but they will be attached to what Bree sends out.
Yeah.
To register for the program. Oh, there we go. They'll still be attached. Let me look. What do we got? Checking on the Clean Label Project site. Yes, I thought that was very interesting. Some of them are things that I eat, and I was like, cool, thank you. And then some of them were, I didn't love how the nutrition facts were on the back. So it's like, I'm glad that those are clean labels, but still not of my interest for what I need. So really just check. Uh, I did 2 squats. I love it. Calculating amount of protein. Yep. Can one get too much protein? Okay, this is a great question. There's differences in thoughts on this one. Research is kind of going back and forth on this. Some would say it's not going to aid you too much. It's not going to hurt you by getting too much. Some people, it really hurts your stomach. So, dependent on the person. But for example, that math I did earlier for the 125-pound person, I believe it was 70 or 57 grams of protein per day. That would be for like a maintenance goal. So if you want to stay at that weight, stay at what you're doing, you'd want to continue that. If you're aiming to do a little bit more, like gain muscle mass or gain weight, you might want to get above your body weight for protein. Thank you. Thank you, guys. How to determine how much protein I need. So, yes, consult your physician to know exact amounts for you, but the typical rule of thumb is about 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per kilograms of body weight. And if you recall, it is your body weight in pounds divided by 2.2 to get kilograms. Oh, yeah, that wasn't the question. It's how much you learned. Thank you. And this is my email information. If you guys ever need anything from me, remember I'm in your counties or just in general to reach out for any questions that you have. I miss you guys too. Thank you so much. Yeah, but that's about it. So, yeah, Bree will share this out and then send out those links for signing up for class if that's something you're interested in. You guys have been such an interactive group, so I'm so thankful for that. So, thank you guys for your time.
Yeah, nice work. It makes it so much more fun.